Okay, so this is a mixture of bone strengthening work, alignment tune up, and then restorative. So you're actually going to start upright, but I wanted to be kind of seated so you can kind of see me give some direction with your props. Your chair is against a wall or in a firm surface where it's not going to fall over. Something against the back of the chair is best. So we're actually going to start standing, and I want you to really give some emphasis today on what occurs with your I would say mostly your lumbar area. I want to give some care and correction in this area to help us out so we can work on strengthening. Okay. So I'll kind of come to that here and there, but it's really about, bone density is what we're going to kind of keep reinforcing. So you'll step back on your mat and you'll have your hands on the chair seat. So obvious choice in the beginning is to discover something that's centering and breath supported, right? So you can support the awareness of your breath with the bone centered. So as you push back on the chair, you want to find that it's, we do things like cat-cow, we have cow pose where there's a bit of an arch in the spine. I want you to feel somewhere between that cow pose, although your hips are back, so you have more stretch in the back area, but also kind of, when you get back to child's pose, you do a reach with your hips. So take a wide stance, feel the forward motion, but kind of erase the idea of trying to get as far down with your spine as possible. I want you to really feel the reaction of the reach of the arms. So we all know that doing arm strengthening work is great for the spine. So I want you to really reinforce that reach and the tone of the arms so they don't get floppy. Right? We don't want any floppy discs. Okay, so get a feel, remember those. Get a feel of how the arms have a reach, and maybe your head kind of moves down center of the arms. So if that occurs, that's fine. Just be a little aligned with the reach of the arms and to the point where you feel, there's some definition going on here. Okay, no push-ups required. Feel the armpit chest stretch. And then with that reach of the hips back, take a few more moments here with breathing slow. Inhaling and experience the exhalation, letting go. If your feet feel like they're kind of squishing in to hold their space on the mat, you can always step a little bit outside the border of the mat, just a tad, so you feel like you're pretty sturdy with the legs. Good. And now when you get a feel of the arms in that reach, bend through the knees. Okay, it doesn't take the stretch out of the back, but it will bring you a little more power into the feet. Okay, and now step the left foot basically center behind you and just take the right foot forward underneath the chair. And notice your stance, like you want to be in two different tracks here, so you're not in one plank. So when you get a feel of the two tracks, can you kind of steer your back foot so that it's parallel, but to the point there's a calf stretch. And so you have to kind of navigate the experience of pressing into not just actually take it back into your feet. So move it down into your feet. So if your hands are starting to get an increased load in the wrist, that's kind of a no-no. We're trying to get it into the bones of the legs. Okay, now I don't want us to go down the elbows unless we have to, because that's so much more flexion in the back. So if your wrists are they have an injury or so forth, of course you go down to your forearms. But for now, see if you can work with feeling, even if you kind of lighten the load on your hands, push down to your feet. Okay, and let the left hand center on the chair, that means in the middle. Turn to your right with the torso and lift the right arm. And let's just take it to the back. So like it's going into your left hip pocket, palm open. And feel how the feet react. The tendency might be the inside of your right foot kind of wiggles. But I want you to feel that you can press down into the span of the right foot. You can feel that right leg lengthen. And also you're creating circulation and hydration here into the spine. So try to make it so it's a smooth turn, nothing excessive, but rotate. And I would just have your head turn to the right or look down, but just be cautious of how much twist in the neck you push around here. Good. Yeah, so try to get the right leg to straighten so you stretch your hip. Okay, now right hip still stays in this angle. And then we'll lift up the left heel, just the heel, and then turn so the right hand comes down the chair, both hands on kind of the edge piece of the chair seat. And then get a feel when that heel is up. Lower down the heel, and you can scoot the left foot a little bit into the midline and reach the right leg back and up so it's a balance. Okay, now if you're getting a little challenge with your hold into your feet because your left foot's quite far back, you know, you might need to bring your left foot a little bit in, but you can't just hop on it, right? You lower your right foot, stepping in. But I want you to try to keep this left foot back. So you're working on that strength into your lower spine. But this is more of an arched back, right? Not a flex back, okay? So keep that reach to the right leg. Try to keep the toes facing down. Press to the right heel. Yep, there's no prop it presses against. There's no wall. It's an air prop. Okay. And the left hip stimulating that circulation up into the hip joint. And it's tempting to tuck the knee in, but we're working on the strength here. So hold that for a few more breaths until we get a good image. Keep breathing though. Gotta get that point across, I guess. Okay, now, as you step the right foot besides the left, I want you to hold the side pieces of the chair. Hopefully they're not pieces, but they're all connected. Step the feet back together and reach forward into up dog. So we're using the chair to hold the spine tone. Inhale and exhale. I want you to keep the arch. You're working on that strength. So maintain it. Breathe. You can always take a break. Okay. And then when you come back, I want you to find almost like a push-up position. So you're not completely pushing your hips back to a forward bend. You're holding the chair sides. You're breathing, abdomen feels like it has to pull back, and then step the left foot under the chair seat. Both feet, of course, you still have them. They're still wrapped on the bottom of the leg. Okay, so get a feel of the stance. So one side, you might have a real easy time having the two different tracks. The other side, it might be a little bit more hinged together. So, you know, as you practice, I've been kind of thinking about this when I do poses that I want to find how I can do things that will really help my bones. See if the pose serves you and if you feel like you can activate in the pose. Some of these poses you might take a different journey on it than I'm bringing up. So really expose yourself to the pose and then see what serves you well. Okay, so keep the hands so the palms are, let's try to let the pads of the fingers touch so you have kind of this funny spider hand look so you're not pushing into your wrist. And feel that left leg try to lengthen. Okay, if it's bending, that's okay, but I want you to try to straighten both legs. Feel that you reach out of the spine. Okay, so we want to keep those vertebral bodies in a type of response, right? We have the response team working in our back here. So keep active with breathing. Using the chair, of course, that you're leaning into a little bit. Okay, try to release the shoulders, let the right hand come down center of the chair, sort of center. And left hand is going to simply reach around to the right hip pocket and turn to the left. Yeah, so the left leg might be a little tense in this position. You might feel it all the way kind of sucking up into the hip, a little pull. So Feel when you rotate the waist to the left, that turn of events in the organs, massaging the organs, or messaging them maybe. Yeah, I have, some challenge here with the right hand, so I've got to kind of work with lifting up in my mid body and pressing down to my back foot. If your back heel is up, that's okay. Should feel like a balance challenge here. Okay, now turn to the chair. Feel the abdomen easily kind of drop back to center. Hands press down here. Reach the left leg back. And just work with, where you can create support. So for some of us, the right foot has to come a little closer. For some, farther back is just fine. But you're creating really a warrior three pose, right? In essence. So I want you to have the hands onto the chair seat. This version you may have done before. This variation has probably been things like you have your hands like higher up, like to the back of the chair. You're working with balance there. So you could do that, but I'm trying to reinforce kind of total control, a little bit more control in the nervous system this way. So last direction with our chair and our arms, this pattern. Take one more breath here. Keep going with it. See if the hips feel a little tilted. They probably are. And then left foot steps down. Hands hold the sides of the chair. Right foot steps back. Feet together. Back to up dog. Feel the thighs. I mean, my sense is there's always something to work with in each position. So how does this serve me? I want to work on the legs, combining their energy right next to each other, kind of tightly together, like you're squeezing the thighs inwards. And then the spine rebounds. Okay. And then we're going to use, the next few moments, use the ball. So I want you to shift back so you find that plank. And then just simply walk your feet, any foot first goes to the chair, and turn around, or if you need to turn your chair another way, if you're on, it depends on the setting you have your stuff. Turn around so you can at least see me, and have a seat in the chair and get the ball and place it between the knees, okay? So you have a ball. If you don't have a ball, and you can use a block for this as well, but I want you to have some measurement between the knees that supports the balance in the back of the pelvis. So I hold on to the ball, okay, and then slide your hands back to the chair seat. If this is a real intense position for you, it's okay if you have a little bit more height and you're holding like this, the arms of the chair. This is nice to do too. It depends on the chair you have though, doesn't it? But this is the reason I like these folding chairs, is that I can use the arms of it. I can, use the leg of it because it's all just one piece versus a lot of bulk. So I'm using the chair so I can open up the chest. I'm trying to stay with that. So let's keep it simple. Squeeze the ball and relax the squeeze. So we're going to do about 8 of these. Now, as you breathe, you might find the inhale's good when you're not squeezing, and the exhale's great when you're pushing into the ball. Like the rebound, and part of it's like the belly moves downwards on the inhale, the ball, is not being squeezed on the inhale. And on the exhale, I squeeze in, and also diaphragm moves up, right towards the heart. It can be a little confusing, when you try to get your respiratory inners working with the pose. But take a few more experiences of breath. You might close your eyes so you can notice the alignment and the dynamic of squeezing into the ball, the pelvic floor pressure, increasing that. So it's not too lax. Now last time, that's different than getting grip into like the rear muscles, which isn't something we want to work towards. So adductor grip, pelvic floor grip is a little different than the back side because you're probably feeling more front side. So when you relax the grip with the ball, keep it, you gotta have some sensitivity to kind of holding it in. We'll take a twist and I'll turn to the left first so you can kind of see the demo. So the right hand to that left outer leg. Now I've got to be careful that my right knee doesn't swish forward, even if it's an inch or two. I want to keep the legs right aligned, straight across, right hand to left leg, and then feel the rotation, feel the gentle turn, and the lift of the chest. Breathing. Okay, now switch sides. So I want you to just notice that it's pretty fundamental work. So left hand to right leg, but the legs are aligned. Right? So if you need to move the ball closer on the inner thigh so you can see if your knees are straight flush across from each other, right? You do want them to be straight across. So the one leg is not swishing forward. This is really critical for the lower back. So you're keeping the lumbar very safe and you're isolating your thoracic. So turn to the right, keep it going, rotate, maybe close your eyes, maybe sense if the hand is down at the seat of the chair, you could kind of scoot your hand to the center seat of the chair. You know, we're not trying to overdo it with shoulders, but feel the rotation in the ribs and breathing. Okay, now come back center, taking the right foot up, the ball goes out for a moment. I want you to cross the right, you don't have to turn, but cross the right ankle over that left knee so that the ankle's on the other side of the left thigh, right? So it's hooked over. So you don't have to do a funny balancing dance there, but I want you to notice here, just toss the ball down, the hip opening aspect. So I'm on the kind of edge of my chair seat. Now with the position of my sitting bones, I think they're pretty aligned, but the chair will let you know. And then reach out the arm. So you're kind of emphasizing, exaggerating that yes, you have this chest area. And then we'll take the left arm, swing it across, the arms across in front. If you're about ready to reach around, well, you are going to give yourself a hug. So left arm on top, give yourself a hug. Try to work on spine up, which does mean it feels like an arch, but it's not rounding. And then you'll hook the elbow. So what I try to use is the awareness of the elbows, the left elbow touching the inside of the right elbow, not elbow, I guess, inside of the arm. Intertwine. I'm pretty rooted with the elbows. And then my work is on lifting and leaning. So elbows up, tipping forward, stretching into my hip, and a little bit more in the hip. And balancing that phase of circulation through the right hip. You might even feel more than the hip. Okay, now if the arms are getting a little tired from it, you can certainly lower your elbows down, snug into the heart. Heart snuggie. But as you lean forwards, hoping that you feel this in the right leg. You know, it might even need such a stretch more than the hip. So it just kind of cycles through around the knee into the lower bones. But we're going to get all through those leg parts coming up. So nothing will be missed. Good. If the knee is a little bit up, that's okay. Nobody wants to break the knee down. So just let the leg be as it is, the right leg versus pushing it. But as you come back up to the midline, lifting, centering, uncross, arms too, left foot up to the right leg. Okay, just it's the only thing that's different than what your habit in life might be is you're not crossing it over, right? You have the hook of the foot. This could be your new sitting position. So when you balance the kind of this matrix here and the right arm, this time we'll just swing right into it. So I sometimes will find just reaching the arm across versus the hug and just kind of play with the twist of the lower arm band, right? Kind of rotate it. Okay. Align your tattoos. All right. So feel the lift of this is pretty critical that you work with the lift of the elbows versus kind of sagging forward with them. So feel where there's lift. It's a little more challenging respiratory position, right, for your lungs. You feel like stiff with your breath. Okay, and then reach the waist forward. Like you're antsy to get out of the chair, but you can't quite get out of it in this challenged position. So feel how you lean forward. When you breathe, can you work with the breath like it's helping your spine reach? I mean, if you've ever had something happen in your back or, really difficult happen in your back in life, sometimes the breath is really challenged, like your ribs, you're fearful. So work with slow breath, like it's helping you steer the spine up, right? So you're reaching out of your mid back with your lung pressure. It's good preparation. Okay, now my elbows could kind of hug into the heart. I'm finding I can maintain this side pretty well with the elbows away from the heart. Give it a few more moments. Breathing. Helpful. Okay, now when you come back into the center line, okay, now we'll get the legs really stretched out. So come around, don't go around the chair, but let's come back to the feet and on the ground space. And then we're going to stand ourselves up. So I want you to have your feet apart to what you would think is a pretty wide hips distance, right? It feels like a wide leg pattern. Okay, but really reinforcing this back, the messaging into the back that we're exploring extension. Right? It's like reach out of the back. So when you go forward and you lean, you might just work with like, you get right up. But I like to walk my feet a little bit in towards the chair. And then when I angle forward, I'm very cautious of loading my legs. So give it a try. When you try to get up, I want you to really try to load your undercarriage of your legs. So you're not pushing all around into the knee. And usually it can hurt, it can feel painful in the knee if you do that. So really load, you got a seat behind you if you fall back. Load the rear, and then come up and try to push down into your heels to get yourself up, even if you get a little shaky in the legs. Okay, so let's take our chair. I'm wanting you to have it kind of near your mat, but far enough in front so that your back is to the wall space. And we're going to be kind of grabbing the chair here and there, but I don't want you to hit the chair with your head at all. So let's take our blanket, one, and we'll put it in connection with our lunge. So I want you to lower down to hands and knees to start, and probably err on the side of the blanket being farther back than too far forward under the knees. Because you can always adjust at that point, but you don't want it too far forward, then it's kind of a drag to nudge it back. Okay, so feel where the hands are and feel where there's, again, that gentle arch. So we consider this to be cow pose. Okay, so we feel the arch through the spine. Okay, feet touch back to something. If you don't have a wall space, make sure you're on the mat. And then you're going to lean back. And some of you probably know about the dangers of spine flexion, but this is only if you've got, bone loss. But this is a better pose to do for your spine, for supportive, continuous support work versus like a lot of cat pose. So today we're going to err on the side of that. So we work on reaching. You don't have to put your head down, but it could be low. And then we'll come forward And we'll take that cow, but we're gonna actually move it all the way into up dog. So then we push into the wall and lift up the chest, inhale. Okay, we'll go back and forth. That's why I don't want your chair too close. And reach back your hips. Oh, this could feel good. So just iron it out. Now, if you come up and you really get the spine rounding, it feels kind of groovy. I want you to work on feeling the hands pressed, feel the tone in the arms. If you get a little spine kind of rolling through, that's okay, but let's not overly identify with the rollout. And probably your best way to do that spine extending length is when we do supine poses on our back. And then as you come forward, you might feel a little bit of the neck releasing and rebounding to come up. Lifting the head, lifting your gaze up to the ceiling or sky. And then push into your arms when you load the bones to come back. Okay, let's do this just another time or two at the most. And then you've got to find that you've got legs, right, to work with helping build up that strength, right, into the back. So leg lunges, that's part of it. So we'll come back to table and step the right foot forward and we'll get our chair. Okay, so if you've got kind of a little sturdier of a chair, heavier of a chair, you might have to get up and kind of wobble it back into place, but I want you to feel like you could at minimum use the chair for your hands. Doesn't have to be right in front of your knee, okay? So we start low, we have the left knee down and we stretch into the front of the left thigh. So we lean into that lunge, okay? And then we tilt back and I'm trying to get my right foot, the toes to move up a little bit to flex. So if my chair is really far away, that's harder to do. So you might pull it in a little closer because you want something to reach so that you're not caving in here in these muscles. So alternate between bending and lunging, of course, yep. And then feel how you reach back. Yeah, and it's a little bit tilted, right, in your balance. You've got one leg kind of pointed out to that right side and forward. And then we'll start to work with the deeper strength. So I want you to pull your chair in a bit more. And then you'll work your way to lifting the back knee. So I would be cautious to the point where you make sure your chair is stable. You're using your wall a lot. So you lift up, and I really use the wall to support the bulk of strength, right? So I'm using the wall as much as I'm using the right foot to hold me up in the lunge, okay? So what you could do here is to maintain that bend of the right knee just above the ankle, not over the ankle. Press back into that left heel. Now, let's say you're in a space where you're not right next to a wall, you could lower that left heel down. It's a bit of a calf stretch, but you can also keep the heel up. Yeah, I like both. There's sensitivity in the bones to both of them. Either one. Take another moment here with the lunge. Be careful your knee doesn't push back too much on the right leg or it goes over the toes. Well, actually you won't go over the toes because you've got a chair in the way, huh? Okay, so let's get momentum here if we can try for it. You're going to step the left foot forward, okay? You get a feeling of the feet, hips distance. You know, we stood up to our chair pose, we took off from the chair seat. Now it's kind of the other direction. So I want you to reach your arms forward and find that chair pose. It's often called awkward pose as well. Reach your arms from your sides. And then as you bring your arms down, just kind of shake them out, and then push down to your heels and stand up and feel. Scan your legs, you know, the sensation of the leg bones. Notice if the right leg feels, you know, just more sturdy than the left because you've been putting weight into it. So just stand upright and feel the weight into your feet. Okay. So probably a little more blood flow in the right leg. Okay, now bend through the knees. Okay, reach your hands down, so you have to tilt forward, and then I want you to step back into that right leg and keep it up for the beginning of it, right? So we'll stay upright versus the opposite side. We did low to high, we'll go high to low. So I have my back heel, I just kind of nestle it into the wall. It's elevated, but you could have the heel down. But elevated heel will put more circulation into the front leg because you're kind of pushing forward. Okay, so basic science of movement. Feel the left knee. Feel a little bit of that balance into the hip. You don't have to shove the knee very far forward, but what you might start to plan ahead is to work on getting this right thigh, the front of the leg, the hip flexor, to open up. So that's by the left knee going forward, just above the ankle. So make sure the foot's far enough under the chair that your knee is not going over the ankle or the other side of it, tilting. It's above it. And then I find I have to be very cautious here for my knee. So when I stretch from high to low, I want to load into that left underside of the thigh. So use the underbelly of the left leg, and then use my hands to push into the chair seat, and then cruise down with my right knee onto the blanket. It worked. Sometimes the knee will respond. So you have to kind of be careful, individualize it, kind of customize how you balance your weight into your knees. Push back, toes up left foot, heel down, stretch your back. Inhale forward, feel working your way through that lunge. Lift the chest. And exhale back. So the hands press to the chair, flex the left foot. And take a few of these. Sometimes one side feels really good with us, like you're getting some deep sensation through the leg, kind of the thickening. And when you feel that lunge and that quality of sensation through the right hip flexor, the psoas, it's good for where we're going with this one. So take one more lunge. Let's give it a few moments extra with the knee forward, just above the ankle. Okay, and find a meditative perspective of just feeling. If your knee is not liking this, remember you can back off a little bit. You could also use your hands on the chair to help you get your back knee up. Right? You could lift the back knee if it hurts to have your knee down. Okay, you can also do a pass of the pose. You can pose pass anytime. Okay, so now we're going to lower down and come back to a little inversion. So I'm going to push down into my hands, and I think you want to probably have your chair, just move it away. Push it, push it, push it away. Okay, so hands down, toes under, lift the knees, stretch back to downward dog, and feel the way of absorbing the sensation in your shoulders, your ribs, because you're essentially getting upside down, right? You're not feeling like you're in a handstand, like you're putting all your weight, but it does trickle into that essentially for your shoulders, your back, right? At least your body mimics that. The nice thing is your feet aren't straight up to the sky, so you don't have to maintain balance or wrist pressure of a whole body weight. Okay. Now lower down the knees. Take a blanket to the back of the mat. Slide off the blanket under your knees. Okay, so we're going to shift into a little bit of a specific restorative set that we've experienced many times, but it'll be kind of a compact restorative that we'll get in. So you get all the good restorative shapes that we enjoy packed into a sequence. So we'll have a bolster in the middle. If you're right next to a wall, you want some space, but you don't have to have yourself away from the wall. So I like to, in time, I think I kind of intuitively get my spacing better, but we'll see. So I got my bolster back there. I'm going to have a block, and My ball is nearby, my sandbag and belt. And so you're going to lean back into your bolster. And then as your head lowers down to the blankets, put your block under your pelvis. Excellent. This feels good after doing that standing work, just to let the body kind of simmer in those sensations right after. A lot of downtime between. Okay. So we straighten out the legs. Maybe you got the wall under your feet. That would be quite useful for your alignment. You kind of know. So if you want to fuss around, study it for a little bit, go get a sip of water or tea as you get into this part of the session. It's a good time for that too. Okay. So when the shoulders drop, this is our smart way of working with our spine, right? Our supine poses. Because the way that gravity is working with the vertebrae, right? You're not kind of compressing and wedging. So if we're going to start to choose our practice pieces, I want you to just notice, how this has function in your vertebral bodies. So you might just go, I feel good doing poses on my back. So maybe there's some essential support here. Now that I'm on my back, I gotta grab my sand, slide it to the front of the thighs, go kind of mid to low body. And if this feels like it's too low and you want it a little bit higher, you can always place your sand on your ribs. If you have 2 sandbags, you could do both, but if I have a choice, I just feel both areas. If I don't like this one, I can go to the ribs. The knees shouldn't be together at all, right? You want some spacing and field of opening the chest. Okay, let it flourish here in the chest. 1 or 2 blankets. If this feels too much push into your neck, just go down to 1. It would be ideal if you can find where you're lengthening and not compressing. And for some of us, 1 blanket is just enough. So breathing into the ribs. And feeling that awareness of expansion. Really try to set aside whatever business your mind is going through, right? The thought process, the planning, and just be here. Right? See if you can be present for your body healing, restoring, replenishing. And if this pose doesn't serve you with the length in the front body, because that can cause just too much energy into the back body, you can always go without the sand. This is a good option. And bring the knees in. You could be here too. It doesn't have to be straight down with the legs and sand. But the key would be that we have this bolster under our ribs, and we can emphasize that elevation with the rib cage. Okay, so for those of you that have the sand on the legs, let's slide it away and walk the feet in and take the soles of the feet to scoot together next to each other. Bring the knees to release outwards and working on the hips. So when my knees move out, when feet are together, this is a little bit pressure of my feet, but it's doable. It's not overly compressive in the inner thighs. It just feels like my feet push, my thighs have a little wiggle room. There's still more that they could go, but I just kind of stay with what gravity gives me here. This is enough. The knees could be farther down, they could be farther up towards the groins. Actually, I don't think the knees are going to change their distancing, are they? It would be your feet and then the sensation of the thighs that would change. So the farther down my feet go, it's just a little less pressure for me on my knees. The farther up my feet go, I can begin to feel it on the inside of my knee. So remember, go to where there's not going to be any potential for disturbance in the structure, besides stretching. Okay, feet slide back to the soles and pick up the right foot and try to scoop the knee in towards your chest. Just feel what that's like. Do you use your left foot down firm? I think you do, to try to get that knee to move in. Good, and then lower the right foot and switch to the left foot, lifting. The foot can relax, you don't have to flex it. That's challenging to not flex it. But feel when it draws in. Yeah, again, think about constantly, how does this serve me, right? So tightening my foot, does that serve me? The whole practice you could spend with that inquiry. That's for my inquiry of the week with practice. Does this pose serve me? So there might be times that I'll teach 2 different variations. So if you have some issues with the bones, you want to be a little bit careful. Alternate knee towards chest, and you'll have some variations. And some of us maybe don't have any worries on that front. But last time on each side. Now when you pull the leg in, yeah, feel how the core corridor of the waist senses that pull. Is it just kind of passive? And using your back muscles to do the movement. So let's walk our feet a little wider, and the knees could move out if that's easier for you. Reach your hands under the bolster. If you have the little handles on the bolster side, this is nice to have those for this positioning. Actually, before we do that, move your blanket back or over to the side so that you could probably just move it back. So that you don't have such neck compression, okay? Neck is lengthening. Okay, hands to the sides, push into your feet, your weight goes back to your shoulders, and then you push the bolster down just a few inches so it's under your pelvi. Okay, pelvi lie. So now as the pelvi can lie down, made up concept there, pelvi, I like it though. Okay, so now I get a feeling that if I was to, you could just kind of do that reclining walk again. Kind of feel, is it easy enough for your back to be on the back of the pelvis to be on the bolster? And then get a ball. First things first. Make sure your neck is comfy. Your head is on a blanket. It's enough on a blanket, you're supported. Okay, and then we'll bring the knees up and to center. So if you're trying to pull them in, I want you to keep them centering up so that your legs are straight up from the bolster versus pulling in to the chest. Ball between the knees, okay? And, just get a feel of squeeze. Squeezing the ball, it is. Okay. Let the legs stretch up. This might feel good on your knees. I mean, maybe you got no knee stuff going on, but it just doesn't feel bad on the knees. It's a nice kind of reverse flush in the knee. There's so much of this gravitational drop, right, in our body just from standing. So just getting upside down, twirling that inner universe into different directions is helpful. And then as you bend through the legs, open the arms and bring the knees over to the right. And just feel where your weight is on the bolster. Give yourself freedom to let the left hip kind of lift. You definitely have your butt up off the bolster. It's not pushed down. There's none of that going on. And knees go back center. And to the other side. I kind of go around and around with this one, thinking having the block on the side to kind of be like your bumper block can be helpful if you want to go farther down, so you have something as a bumper, but it's up to you. Today, this doesn't feel necessary to have the block besides my bolster, but you can always try that. Of course, one of yours is underneath your bolster, on the other side of it, I mean. So feel when the knees go side to side and see if you can close your eyes to do that. So you're not looking at your peripheral vision. Does it serve you to look all the time, right? See when you can let your eyes close. I mean, it's a highly popular sensory organ, right? To be looking, to use it, to make it work right, hope it works right. So just notice when you don't have that, how you can feel different senses and maybe the sense of inner balance. Okay, now let's take the last time to that side, whatever side you're going to. One more side, your knees go. Okay, and then come back into the center. Okay, so you get a feel of right into the middle. And now as we move the ball, I want you to get your belt and you'll take brain float. Okay, if it's been a long time since you did this, I want you to work with the bolster under the pelvis so that you don't get that spine to flatten out, right? It's lengthening, it's extending out of the spine. So when I take the belt under the right foot, left leg down. Oh, I so hope I touch the wall with this one. Okay, so if you do touch the wall, great. If not, it's going to be fine. And you might have your belt so it's in a position where you can pull on the tail of it if you need to get some either slack or tension. Okay, so I'm going to cinch my belt up a bit, make sure my loop is pretty big. General measurement would be I kind of hang it down and it's loose onto the chest. And that should be enough distancing, but I err on the side of caution where I give myself a little more space so I'm not compressing my upper vertebrae. I feel some space. So I got a big loop, buckles on the side, scoop up the back of my head, and you'll need to find, I'm gonna give myself more slack so I feel like I can relax my head back into the belt and it's not tightening up anything in my neck. It's giving it traction. Yeah, you probably had an experience where you had your head kind of held in traction in like body work, so cranial work. So this can be reminiscent of that. Okay, so you've got to adjust it until you feel like that's good. I get my neck traction. Yeah, and you're supplying that messaging to your neck because you're the one that's in the body, so you know what feels good and not with your belt. Okay, so if you have your sand, you can place it on the left thigh. You can go minus sand. It's not going to be that big of a deal today, but I think that it's nice to have that reminder of, yeah, oh, I have a hamstring. This putting weight on the opposite leg will create that pull on the hamstring on the right side. Open out the arms. Be sensitive to the flow of the chest. Okay, and then as you feel that right hamstring stretch, feel the weight of your head back. You might be losing that awareness of the weight of your head, I think, on this one, because the hamstring gets such pull that we identify a lot with the right leg. So do feel, if you need to give yourself more slack on the belt, loosen it up. But you want to feel like your head does have the ability to just kind of lie back. Just relaxing your head. Well, this one feels so good sometimes if you haven't done it for a while. An interesting circulation. Okay. So far, so good. Now, if the left foot is pretty relaxed and you don't have the wall to touch very well, your work is to try to keep the toes closer to straight up than to the side. You're trying to emphasize that. So the wall is really nice, just to touch that. Okay. So sliding the belt, let's go caution today. So slide the belt off the back of your head first. Okay, slide the sand. I just put it on my belly because it's kind of a nice neutral spot right now. And then the left foot goes up and the right leg stretches down. And slide the sand on the front of the right thigh. Okay. And then as you give that emphasis of the left leg, you know, it's like a fresh side. So the leg that's up is kind of the dominant leg for the moment. So you want to feel awareness of lifting the leg, like you're trying to push it to the sky. Go up, up, up. It doesn't have helium in it. You don't probably have helium heels, but kind of focus on that lift. Okay, and then pull with the belt. So you're right into the hip, right? You're focusing into now building up some circulation to the top. So it's resistance. You got to think resistance to encapsulate the bones. Then get your belt to the back of your head. Yep, feel that you push into the wall. If you've got a wall space, you're pushing down to the heel. Both heels have some awareness. And then when the belt is around the back, you want to lower down. This would be an interesting one to take a video of how you do on each side with the lift of the head. Because likely we have some, you know, this is part of what you might learn for yourself of getting your alignment kind of, because that's, I think, the name of the game later on in life, is to find balance in each side. One side you might have more knee stuff, and so that whole side is a little bit more tense, and therefore these are interesting pose patterns to work with. Is this one you can get pretty balanced, even if the wiring on the legs feels different, right, when you stretch it. It looks balanced. Just like most of us maybe look when you look into somebody, they look fine and balanced, but maybe they're not. Same thing as the pose of some. Pose psychology. So if you look at your knee, such a great knee, you know, maybe you do push back and you can see how the body, it sways into the back of the knee and that pushes through. So feel if you can make a little micro bend. And then, of course, micro bend is going to stabilize the inside of the thigh a little bit more. None of us have any challenge being the side of the leg tight. I mean, we all, when we stretch it, we feel it, it's tight. So it's the inside that we're trying to stabilize. So I like to touch on the in and outside of my knee, just the sides. And I'm trying to just massage that area and just kind of get some circulation. It never hurts, right, to get this to be stable. It's all the stuff on the side, right? It's not usually the actual knee. That's the meniscus that has the issues. So work with stabilizing. You know, feel it's like when you turn your toes in a little bit, it really pulls the back of the leg to stretch. So much for relaxation, huh? Okay, feel the foot to the wall if you can. Head leans back, traction for the neck. Breathing. Okay, now we can lower the head all the way back. Slide the belt. Hold the belt with your right hand. Cross the left leg to the right. Your sand's going to fall off in a bit. If you're really close to the sand coming off, but it's not quite, just nudge it over. And cross the left leg to the right and let the right foot relax. You might bend your right knee. I have a preference to just bend it. You can, of course, bend your left knee as well. But be aware of what this feels like around the knee. Okay, so bend through the left knee, pull with the belt so you have some resistance, and then lift the right foot up and scoop it into the belt. And the right leg goes up, left foot down. I just let the left knee kind of be passive and let it roll a little bit open and hold the belt with the left hand and cross the right leg over to the left. Yeah, This is our preparation for side sage today. So before we get to this right side with the reach back, we're gonna stay here for a few more moments and just kind of notice, even if you touch onto the side of the upper leg or up to the hip, that you're encouraging this to go down away from your waist, not to pull up to the belly. So I'm just kind of passively resting my hand and reminding that hip to stretch down away from the waist. Feel the rest into the left knee. Breathing. It only helps. Yeah, it is probably ideal if your arm goes out on the ground, the right arm. Now, feeling before you come out how the back is on the bolster. What touches the bolster? If you're anticipating kind of anything, you're probably not completely committed, right? So noticing that you can commit anytime into your pose, probably more at any given moment. Breathing deeper, respecting the body. See what serves you, bend the right knee. And then let's keep the feet up in the belt for a moment. Just put both feet up. And I like to sometimes do this version where I hold the belt. And I also like it when you unbuckle. So you could be here with holding the belt, version 1. Feet are wide, stance. Okay. Version 2 is I unbuckle and then hopefully don't lose the belt. Pull straight down. So there's resistance in the legs, but it's still a wide stance. It doesn't have to be one's better than the other, but whichever one you can settle into. Slide the feet together, knees into the chest, take off the belt, and off to the side it goes. And as you roll to the left, be aware that you have a block below you, and you'll get smooth into the ribs down to the bolster. Slide your arm in, and then kind of push the block away. And then we'll take side sage. And if you're lucky enough to still have your chair nearby, we're using it all the way today, huh? You'll pull it in just a tiny bit. It's only for your hand, so it could be distant. But you'll take your ball on the inside of the right leg. Yeah, good job with all the props. Okay, props to you. All right, so the ball on the inside of the right leg. If the wall's too close, you can push yourself away, because I don't know how much a wall would be good for this one. And then as you add your sand, I don't think we can add more props to this anymore. Add your sand to the side. Okay, if you're in this point of the class, since your side sage is not at the beginning, you might be, I don't know, you might be pretty relaxed in your side. You might be the opposite, actually, from what we've been doing. So we'll give ourselves a good almost 2 minutes on this one, okay? Well, not quite 2, but close. So focus, let your head relax. Maybe focus is overdoing it, right? Let your arms be supported, one on the ground, one overhead, head relaxed. And feel that length through the side with the breath. And just feel how the bones rest. There is a direct influence into your ribs and your breathing. But again, when you put it in a different part of class, it's kind of like, it just has a different essence for your awareness, I think. It really changes it up on one side of the class to the other. So give it the same respect you would in the beginning. Feel the influence of breath with the ribs movement. Back to pose psychology here, and rest your eyes. And let the weight of your head relax into the blanket. If you need to put your arm down, that's fine. If it's tired, you can put it on your side or across to the bolster. You choose, arm is up or arm is down. And now can you relax the torso? Okay, quality stretching for your back muscles here. Now let's simplify how we would work with the middle body. Okay, so as you let the sand slough off, you can let it just kind of drop off if you move your hip usually. Okay, now just notice when your arm comes open to the right side, like you roll on the back of your head on the blankets. You can kind of feel that circulation through the chest. Okay, now there's a lot of waist stretching, right? There's a lot of this mid-body, yay, feeling. Okay, but part of mid-body strength, right, is to do circulation depth, right? So it goes right into the center, the nucleus of it. So I want you to roll to your left, so you're still propped, and then come up so that you're sitting in front. Now I'm just going to nudge my bolster back so I have room in front, but I want you to take your ball between the knees and also take your belt on your shins. Okay, I thought we were done with our belt, but I guess we're not. So take your belt and place it below the knees, right? And how far to the shin should it be? Well, where your arms hold it, right? So if you reach down, grab a hold of your belt, this is okay. And this is a lot of protection, right? We got a ball, we got a ball, we got a ball, we got a belt. And I'm going to lean back, and my bolster might push a little bit away. I'm not committed to touching, gripping onto my back, but it's there as a reminder. Pull yourself up by bicep curling, and then lean back. Okay, inhale when you're back here. Exhale when you come up. Inhale, back. Exhale, center and seat. Okay, so take a couple more of these, but don't worry about squeezing the ball. It's just a spacer for your back muscles. Okay, if your belt is sliding, your ball's going to help prevent it from going too far up. So don't worry about that, because it's okay if it slips around. Now, next time you lean back, I want you to slide your feet closer in. And so you just pull with your belt, so that might help you out. And then bring your belt farther down. So it might be at the bottom of your pants, right? So at the very base. And then pull yourself up. So your hip flexors feel that. And see if you can steady this for a few moments. So center, sitting, lift up to the chest. Hold onto the belt till you have the elbows by your sides. And then relax. The grips. The ball goes away. Well, it doesn't go away because it goes to the next pose, huh? Take the belt away and then turn to your right side and place the ball so it's on the inside of the left leg. Pull in the bolster and then start to take onto that right side sage. Okay, so you can have your sand on the side. You can have the weight down. Yeah, it seems kind of low, the weight, the blanket for me right now, but I'll see what happens here. So that it is the same as it was last time. So as I lean in, you find your way in towards spine extending, right? So this is really, helpful for less disturbance in the vertebral column. So we're working on kind of pizzazz back in the spine, circulation, hydration. All right, so keep it centered so your weight is into your hip. And the weight of your head down. Breathing. Okay, give it a few moments. These are really lovely shapes to work with for progression in circulation benefit, not just to the bones, but right to the lungs, to the organs, the digestive tract. So keep in mind there's so much more than just this body weight, pressure, resistance. You know, feeling where the body weight is in the right side. Now, do you turn and let the chest open? Does this feel good for does this serve you? If it's strained, it's not really serving you. If you're having a difficult time breathing, that doesn't work. Not to say anybody is, but just notice. You know, and this is a good area to stretch, this lymphy area, right? Armpit, chest, so much lymph here. Right, it gets closed down most of the day by your side, so try to get the circulation in here. Keep it simple, it doesn't have to be overdone. You're probably almost losing your sand at this point. It's a sand toss. And then you're going to shift back to the right hip, slide the sand away, however you like to. Roll into that right side. And then as you come back up, well, at least from sitting, you're going to shift up and we'll take the bolster to the wall. If you don't have a wall space, it'll be fine if it's on your sticky mat. I mean, the wall's nice, you have something to kind of direct the circulation. So lay back. Okay, like I mentioned earlier on about the focus for the spine care, these reclining poses are so helpful for our spine. So I want one blanket under my head. How many do I have here? Can I get rid of that one easily? I'm not so sure about that. Okay, so one blanket is fine. It's taught both directions with blanket or not, so you can choose. But feel when your feet are on the bolster. And let's take a block, because let's just get right into action with this one. And I want you to tuck it under the back of your pelvis flat. So just have it low. And even if you're like your advanced bridge pose low block right now, because we're going to go up and down off it. So it's going to be kind of your floor. All right. So push down into your bolster. Now, some of us are shoving kind of on the edge of your, well, I'm not looking at your bolster, but some of us might be more like our bottom of the foot are pushing to the wall. So it's probably more the foot pushing straight down. So, you know, kind of feel the angle of your foot. And I want you to feel like the back of your leg grips up when you push. So that's what I want you to feel is the glute, even up into the buttock is toning. So lifting the hips up, okay? So you got to be above your block now. You can't be at the level of the block anymore. You're above. Hips lift, and then you lower down. Now I want you to just feel where the block is. Know where it is with your back, not your hands, your back. So you feel where that is. You want to be just above that. Hold that. Keep the legs toned. Reach back overhead. I mean, if you have a chair, it's kind of nice because you can hold the legs of it. I kind of like that sometimes, but it's not going to do much for me. And the hips lift, so you have this reach with the hip bones. Okay. And then arms go back down the sides as your pelvis lands on that block. Okay, you might enjoy that. Just center. Okay, inhale, belly full. Exhale, belly towards spine, push into your feet, lift your hips up, arms go overhead at the end of the lift. Okay, feel how the neck has to stretch with the blanket. It does stretch it a little bit. Doesn't take much, right? You just use a blanket under your head. All right, now keep the hips up, lower down the arms, and turn the block up one notch. See if you can lift your hips up, and then use that block at the second setting. So it's a little bit higher. Second setting, right? This is flat, second. Just go to the second. You're not going to go any higher than that. And it's a horizontal across. And then I try to scoot the block and have my own sensor of where that feels supported under my pelvis. So some of us it's lower. It's probably not going to be higher. You don't want your block in your thoracic, your ribs at all. Not a good idea at all. Okay, in fact, I have mine kind of below my lumbar and it's across the back of my pelvis. That's where I feel it. And that feels pretty supportive. So let the palms open, even if it feels like, what am I doing here for my body? So lifting the hips, creating that circulation through the spine. Okay, circulation in towards the breathing muscles, diaphragm inverted. And then let your arms be relaxed. You don't have to shove the shoulders into the spine, just feel the palms open. And then if you have a wall, only if you have a wall, you'll step your feet to the wall. Okay, only if you have a wall. If you don't worry about it. You don't have to put your feet up in the air. That's coming, right? That is towards the end or at the end today. Okay, now feel the feet touch and see if you can find just the right amount of intensity circulating through the legs into the back. Yeah, I love these kind of powerful sequences for the spine. You just have to have a reason to do them. Get together to do them. It's kind of challenging just to put time aside to do some of the work, admittedly. Okay. You need a common focus to do this. So lower the feet down. Don't push the legs up. Lower the feet down to the bolster. And now notice when you put your feet down how you anticipate coming up off the block. Like you almost start squeezing muscles in the pelvic floor before you even lift your hips. It's kind of interesting how your nervous system does that. You're already tapped into that. So I want you to relax the buttocks purposely. Just let it relax, when that's not active. And then let the shoulders move back and down. So you're moving the shoulders, maybe robot arms works best. So you can feel the shoulders back. Hands are up, elbows down. Okay, now you're doing a little rollout. So you're going to lift the hips up by pushing down into the feet, lift up the hips, slide the block out. It goes away. They go bye-bye. And then the shoulders are relaxed back and you lower your spine down. Okay. Now take the bolster to the right side of your mat, kick it over, keep the knees in bend knee position, and cross the left leg over to the bolster, left foot, and the ball goes to the sacrum area. It might be a little lower, it might be kind of down by the buttocks, right? So you feel where you can kind of stuff the ball in. And you want to be able to let it be kind of a reminder to cross over, not a nagging push. So you can be very sensitive to just kind of tuck it there. So just kind of rest to the back of the pelvis. And the sandbag goes to the outer left leg. Option, not required. Closer to the knee is going to be easier on your knee itself. Yeah, that's true, right? Even though you go, it's touching my knee, but if I pull the sand farther down to my hip, it's more of a drag and traction sensitive to my knee. So it's not tearing it, but it's not as healthful for the knee. So feel the crossover, feel the hips circulating, and notice what serves you in the pose. The breath. like the pressure in the abdomen. Maybe you don't feel it in the belly, but you feel it up in the waist and the digestive tract, that stimulating the circulation there. So good for us. You can have your head right in the middle, you can turn it to the left. Now slide the sand off. If you're using a ball, I want you to just kind of sample when you come out of this one to put your feet down on the ground and lift the hips and put the ball under the lowest part of the back sacrum and just kind of rest onto that ball. Let it kind of open up that space in the back. And then if you have the ability to multitask on this one, you'll take your bolster and you'll use both hands to help guide it to the left side of your mat. Okay? Just kind of let the body weight just squish the ball, smush a ball, and then switch to the crossover on the second side. Or you can keep doing smush a ball. Right leg over to the left, bolster underneath the leg, ball to the lowest aspect of the spine. And then when you take that sand to the right leg, again, find what serves you to be gentle with the transition of props. I don't want you to try to tug things, but be appropriate with the muscle usage. Right arm is open. Left hand could be open out to the side. It could be resting on your torso. Your head could roll to the right. But really feel where the body weight is and where the spine has its natural arch. So now notice how the back has that length, and it's part of the back, right? It's kind of divided, what's stretching down across into the hip, and then what's up and opening through the chest. So you have these two different kind of branches that you're flowing in the center from, right? That center piece of the body. So as you slide the ball away and you roll to the left, you'll slide the sand off and see if you can scooch yourself to the wall with your bolster. Then the sand, it's kind of there anyway, huh? The blanket pulls in. And then however is easy peasy for you to get upside down. So if it's to scoot to your familiar side and swing the legs upside down, go there. But I want you to kind of keep with this fundamental balance of the back of the pelvis anchored right on the bolster. Now, if I'm far away from the wall, that's okay. Not, I maybe used to get worked up about that, but at this point, you might even feel like the base of the top of your legs, right, feels kind of a little bit away. So again, the key is the legs are upside down. That's the focus. So once they're upside down, you'll take your sand you place it at the soles, and you'll get the feel of leg press, right, up. So you'll lose that once the feet touch the wall. Like it won't be this burden on your muscles. But there's kind of a difference in some ways between some of the idea of muscle work for the bones versus alignment for the bones. It's kind of like these different physiological studies for the bones, so for the health of our bones. So I want you to notice if you're muscling into this, see if you can back off from muscling into this pose. So again, if it's too much, you can always put your legs over a chair, a couch. If having your feet straight up is just overdoing it for your strength. I think we're pretty tapped into this though. So arms are open. If you have an eye pillow, it goes over your eyes, your eyelids, or you have your own eye pillows right there. You've got your eyelids. That's sometimes enough for the moment. Closing your eyes and surrendering the thoughts into the breath. Especially interesting to filter the air in through your nose and out through your mouth. Now, if the shoulders have their positional pressure back, and you feel a somewhat of a balance of weight in the shoulders and weight into the pelvis, even though the pelvis is lifted, you still want to surrender the weight into it, into the bolster. If anything's noticeable around your knee, like areas that you have tension or issues, you want to see what you can do to rebalance the circulation, whether it's to come away from the wall with your feet. That might actually do it because it's muscular tone right at that point with your feet away from the wall. But again, just be wise with your options here. Okay, bend through the legs, feel the back muscles of the legs tone, and then take the sand away. Or you can drop it off any other way. Your sand drop off. Okay, the back of the pelvis has a lift, so it's not completely like a flex spine. There's a little bit of angle at it in this position. So roll to the side. Yeah. Gonna help yourself come up and to take a seat on the bolster next to the wall, or maybe it's a little bit away from the wall now. But crossing through the legs and putting a little blankie on you so you have some of this kind of weight into the bones below your hips and balance the muscles up from the seat. That would be your back muscles. So just visualize when you're sitting here that you are working to be up tall, not uptight, but upright. There's a difference, right, with the spine. So kind of find where you melt into the body, right, and where you kind of work on successful reign in the body. That's a topic now here. Okay, in the world. So feel where there's lift, feel where there's shoulders. They are below the ears, I hope. And bring your hands in front of your heart. Take a moment. This might be the important moment where you just consider what you have gratitude for in your life in this moment, something that you'll think into. And breathe into yourself, feeling the body. And exhale, bowing into the space behind you.